I got one question for the people who endlessly want to be in your mentions talking about Baker's a bust. Baker's not this. Baker still got to prove this or that. Baker's not, anywhere near the top 10. Baker's not top 15. Baker's not better than Daniel Jones or whatever goofy statement you want to say on Twitter behind an account that you don't even have your face on. I have a question for y'all. What do y'all want? What more do you want? At first, it was Baker can't go over 300 yards. Well, he did that. Then it was Baker can't win a big game. Beats Tennessee. Ends that argument. All right. Then it was Baker can't carry you to win a big game. Also in that Tennessee game, he had 345 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Definitely carried them to win that game, but okay. Baker can't carry you. Baker can't bring you back in the game. That's what they said about Baker. Then what does Baker do on Monday Night Football? Brings the Browns back in the game. If it wasn't for poor defense, they probably would have won that game, but hey. Didn't win the game. Now you're saying Baker can't win on prime time. Baker can't do this or that. Baker can't handle dirty pockets. Baker can't do this. If you pressure Baker Mayfield, this is one of the things I heard. If you pressure Baker Mayfield, he becomes Cody Kessler. Yes, I actually saw that tweet. Like, I'm not gaslighting. I'm not straw manning. I read that. Somebody said if you pressure Baker Mayfield, never mind the fact that if you actually look at his numbers when he was under pressure against Baltimore, they were actually pretty good. But, that's what the narrative is with Baker Mayfield. And what happened? Baker Mayfield got blitzed, got pressured, moved around in them little dirty pockets, and then the offensive line held up tremendously well. And lo and behold, Baker Mayfield threw 82% completion percentage. Another check for those on completion percentage Twitter that tell you that Baker Mayfield's completion percentage is not high enough to be a good NFL quarterback. Well, what now? Where else is there to move the goalposts, right? Because we're going to move it into territories that people who have won the MVP haven't even done. Because I feel like the next goalpost is, well, let's see Baker do it in the playoffs. Well, there are people who have won the MVP in this league. I'm not going to say no names, but y'all know who I'm talking about, who have not done it in the playoffs, who y'all don't ask to do it in the playoffs. But Baker Mayfield, oh, y'all want that proof, don't y'all? Y'all need that goalpost move, don't y'all? So what else do you need to see from Baker Mayfield? What else does he have to do? I don't know. Maybe you'll never be pleased, Brandon Marshall, but I am pleased with our franchise quarterback in Baker Mayfield. So how did the Browns look on Sunday Night Football? If I didn't give too much away in that intro, stick with me and we're going to talk about it. Real quick before I get into this video, I got to give a shout out to the Dog Check tier members on Patreon. And of course, I see Greg Ealer, Seth Harrison, Corporal Nick Lopez, Nick Nasty, Mandela Moore, the only Browns fan in Wisconsin, Batman, Jake Phillips, Rush Shear, Barack Kumar, John Albert, Masayua, Budza Roland, Ethan Rindauer, James Nemo, Mac House, Reeve Hertz, Justin Cole, Philip Wilcoxon, Marie Vivert, Timothy McClure, Keith Anderson, Joshua Still, Sean Barron, Gagos Pisano, Dom Gazzulo, Ian Whitaker, Colin 216, Anthony Latham, Christian, Matt Bond, Dave Strong, Michael Stone, Soul Train, Charles Work, Dan in West Texas, Billy, Michael Holdenack, Jared Austin, Josh Bendor, Dylan Hell, Andrew Sedejo, David Maldonado, Chad Gimme, Rex Kaufman, Edrin Hall, Moose Gentry, Patrick F., Austin Z., Mark Burnett II, Andre Griffin, Otis Wolf, IT Rex, Austin Bolin, Jesus Serrano, Joshua Paulus, Chris Falms, Pick Down Browns Backers, Mark Kahn, Max Aldojo, Beerman 069, SSJ Swift, Andrew Hirsch, Feeling Dangerous 113, Dave Mike May, John Cummings, Robert Germain, Cleveland BCI, Anthony O, Bobo Regretti, Stuart Moore, TJ Showman on cue, Mark M, Jaleel Salim Sr., Martha Crusnut, Ryan T, Jonathan Fredericks, CK, Eric Green, Joseph Stevens, and Water Bear Marketing. And thank you to all of you guys who have joined that Patreon. I went off on my Baker Mayfield rant. Obviously, Baker Mayfield had a really good game. 82% completion. It's like a franchise record. It's like the third week in a row he's done something that has ticked some box that made you say, okay, this guy's better than anybody who's walked in the door since 99 at the quarterback position. Other things were good in this game too. Not just the offense. You saw some good things on the defensive side of the ball. You saw some good things overall from the coaching staff and how they approached this game. A lot of good to be gleaned out of this Sunday night football performance. I think one of the main things is that this team showed up to this game. Again, it's a hallmark of good coaching that they didn't have that thriller and have an immediate lull. They came back, handled business on another national TV game. But now let's talk about this in more detailed terms, and now we're going to talk about the defense. All right, so the first person I have to give props to on the defense is Karl Joseph. Played an excellent game. He might have had his worst game as a Brown against the Raiders. I mean, not the Raiders, the Ravens. He played awful against the Ravens, was not helpful at all when it comes to containing Lamar Jackson. But this week, played much better. Maybe his best game as a Brown. And that's going to make sense, right? Karl Joseph is somebody who the less space you ask him to cover, and that's a common thing with our safeties, and the common problem with our safeties is that they're not fast enough to cover a lot of ground. Again, Grant Delpit was supposed to be that guy, but he can't play right now. He has a torn Achilles. But again, the less space you ask him to cover, the closer to the box you ask Karl Joseph to be, the more effective he can be. If he has to stop the run or short passes, he's excellent at that. If he has to kind of cover more, he's not that good. That's why when Ronnie Harrison is back, it kind of fixes a lot of the alignment issues when it comes to the secondary. But I'll get into that next when I talk about Denzel Ward. But so far, from what I saw, Karl Joseph had a good game. Happy from what I saw out of him. Definitely a better performance than he had on Monday Night Football. Now, Denzel Ward played excellent, and I think Denzel Ward and Ronnie Harrison are more important than it meets the eye, because just to the eye, it's just two players, and how can two players really fix this defense that was playing so terrible on Monday night? But it's not just two players. It's what those two players allow the rest of the players to be position-wise. If you have Ronnie Harrison back, you can have him back at free safety. Well, not free safety, strong safety. And you can put Karl Joseph in more of a hybrid role where you can have him take some linebacker snaps. You can also have him take some, first and second down strong safety snaps where he's not covering a ton of field. So you can get the best out of Karl Joseph while also having the ability to cover downfield with Ronnie Harrison. And it kind of just realigns the secondary in that way. Another way that the secondary gets realigned is when Denzel Ward is out there, because instead of having Terrence Mitchell be your number one, moving Kevin Johnson from the slot to be your number two corner, or having to play MJ Stewart wherever where it's not optimal, now you can have Denzel on the one, you can have Terrence Mitchell on the two, which is they're fine at those positions. Terrence Mitchell's a fine number two corner. Then you can kick Kevin Johnson back inside where he's actually good. He's terrible on the outside. He's decent on the inside. And that kind of realigns that secondary. And that's why I think you saw so much better secondary play, because people were in better positions to succeed this week, just because of what Denzel Ward does to your alignments, right? He kind of fixes it in a way to where you're not so lopsided. The biggest problem against the Ravens was that MJ Stewart had to cover and be a number two corner at times to Terrence Mitchell's number one, and that's just not an optimal situation. That's how you end up with plays where Mark Andrews is getting covered by MJ Stewart, which is obviously unacceptable and not optimal. So that being said, when Denzel Ward comes back, all of a sudden all of that math starts to be reoriented and in a much better position. And I think that has a lot to do with why the secondary looks so much better. Also, what has a lot to do with why the secondary looked a lot better is because Colt McCoy was playing quarterback, and no disrespect to Colt McCoy, he's not a guy who can push it downfield. He's very predictable for where he's going to go with the ball. He's a classic game manager style quarterback, and those quarterbacks tend to have limitations that bad secondaries can kind of feast on and attack. Not saying Colt played a terrible game, but he played a pretty predictable game, which played right into the hands of the Cleveland Browns secondary. There's still areas of improvement. I don't think Sheldrick Redwine is going to be the answer. Sorry, Browns fans. I think we're going to have to live with Sendejo out there, because I do think he's better than Redwine at that position. But also, I felt like the linebacking play was actually pretty solid this week. B.J. Goodson, liked what I saw out of him. Taki, liked what I saw out of him. And even Malcolm Smith, who's been pretty good all year. You got a little bit of Jacob Phillips. I didn't see that much out of him. I had to look at the film to see how he played. But decent linebacking play. I didn't think it was a problem all game. Sheldon Richardson did go down. That's a problem. Hopefully he's not out for long. Maybe just a 1 week thing. Maybe he just tweaked his ankle a little bit. And hopefully they're just being careful with him, knowing that the game was kind of out of reach by the time he would be ready to come back into the game anyways. Myles Garrett not being able to breathe as easily as he was before he got diagnosed and put on the C list, that's a problem. I hope that he can regain his regular breathing by the time, in a couple weeks. I don't know how any of this works. I have not had it, so I don't know how long this is going to be. And I know every case is completely different, no matter what your immune system is like, but it seems like he is struggling with the oxygen part of it. It seems to be taking its toll on him. He seems to still be battling a lot of the ailments that it gave him. So hopefully, in a couple weeks, he'll be better and we can see the super Myles that we got. But even Myles that we have now, while he's not the superhuman that we're used to at that position, he's still very good. Was good against the run, was very useful. It's just we need that superhero to be back for the playoffs, and hopefully that superhero can be back, but he is dealing with some issues because he went on that list, and that's unfortunate. I hope he can get better soon. Olivier Vernon had a good game. I felt like he was really excellent when it comes to run stopping. It was overall a good bounce back game for the defense. You lost some pieces. Hopefully nothing major comes out of this game, but still lost some pieces. Played well, stopped the run, got the stops on fourth down. The Giants offense is not good, so I don't want you to think like this is a milestone type performance by the defense, but it's more or less along the lines of what this defense needs to build confidence and also to kind of get reacclimated to being in the right spot as far as how out of position they've had to be over the last few weeks with all these injuries and, the outbreak that happened. So good bounce back. Hopefully you see a stronger bounce back against the Jets next week. But it was nice to see them be able to stop the run. It was nice to see them be able to make those stops in the end zone. It was nice to see this defense not get gashed all game by another offense, which we know was a problem. I mean, Jacksonville gashed the Browns defense when they were pretty healthy. So it's something that's been a problem, and it's good to see it wasn't a problem against the New York Giants. But again, remember, New York Giants, other than the Jets, probably one of the worst offenses in football. Speaking of offenses, I touched on it in the intro. Baker Mayfield, again, and again, this is going all the way back to the Cincinnati game. I don't think he's had a bad game since Pittsburgh, at Pittsburgh. I don't think he's had a bad game since then. I think he's been pretty good since then. He had the 240-mile-per-hour win games where I felt like he still played well, and the Cincinnati game where he obviously played well. And, this is more along the lines of what we saw. He got 82% completion, 27 of 35, I believe, with 2 touchdowns, 297 yards, and it was easy for him. It didn't look like he was even breaking a sweat out there. He was making terrific throws, on-target throws, tight window throws, better screen passes. I saw that improvement. He made some excellent screen passes to Kareem Hunt and Jarvis Landry, especially in this game. So just the accuracy is there, the confidence is there, the pocket awareness is there, the ability to maneuver the dirty pockets is there, the confidence in finding his second and third read in this offense is there. All of these things that you're seeing with Baker Mayfield aren't these volatile things that you're like, I'm not sure these are going to carry over game to game. Maybe he's just hot. These are rather routine things that good quarterbacks do to be able to maintain a consistent level of play. And that's why I'm so excited about where Baker Mayfield's at. I don't think he's been especially hot. I just think he is much better at some of these routine fundamental things, and he's adding his natural ability, his arm strength, his accuracy to that. And it's just creating really good quarterback play that seems extremely sustainable. So that's why I'm excited about what I have seen from Baker Mayfield and why I think this is a good indicator of the type of quarterback he can continue to be, if not even better than this. I mean, the Browns did not have any running game going in this game. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt combined for 22 attempts, 71 yards. That's 3.2 yards per carry. That's not going to win you the football game if you're running behind that. So Baker Mayfield had to make it happen, and he made it happen with ease, like butter, chopping through 2 95-yard drives with ease. and rhythm. It was amazing to see. I don't think I've seen a Cleveland Browns quarterback do that ever, where just the confidence and the ability to drive you downfield 95 plus yards twice with ease. Hats off to Baker Mayfield. Tremendous game. Tremendous game. He played extremely well, and I hope this continues and continues and continues, but it does seem like a lot of these things are just things that are repeatable and not extremely volatile and like something that's like, oh, this isn't sustainable. No, this looks very sustainable. Another huge thing for this Browns team, the interior offensive line dealt with a ton of injuries coming into this week. No Wyatt Teller. Okay, so you're putting Chris Hubbard there. Chris Hubbard's still pretty good. Chris Hubbard, on like the second play or the first play of the game, gets injured. That's not good. You have no backup guard. Chris Hubbard is already your swing guy, and if he gets hurt, I don't know who they were going to put in. I was like, is it going to be Kendall Lamb? It ended up being Nick Harris, who played well at center in training camp. Ultimately, I thought he was always too small to play guard, and at times, his size got the best of him versus Dexter Lawrence. But for the most part of the game, he held up extremely well, and that interior of the offensive line held up well. And this is significant because Pittsburgh and Indy, when you played them earlier in the season and that offensive line got tested earlier in the season, again, this was without Wyatt Teller, they got obliterated on the inside by Indy and especially by Cam Hayward and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that ability to hold up in front of a interior defensive line that is as good as anybody is in the NFL. The New York Giants go 5 deep on that defensive line. They are really, really good, really deep. And for the Browns to hold up all game versus that front, that's significant. That's important. That's something that you're going to put in your head and remember when it comes time to play Pittsburgh at the end of the season, because the one thing that Pittsburgh did that disrupted everything that the Cleveland Browns offense was doing was interior pressure. If the Browns can get rid of that interior pressure versus a team like the Steelers, things are going to get really exciting. So that was extremely significant. That's important, and that's something that shouldn't be forgotten. Hopefully, Wyatt Teller can get back in a couple of games, or, Chris Hubbard's not hurt for a while. I think his versatility at that swing tackle position is going to be useful when it comes to the playoffs, but it's nice to know Nick Harris can step in at guard if needed versus a very good front. Hats off to Nick Harris, man, because that was a tough spot to be in. I'm pretty sure he's taken no reps at right guard like all week for all year, and he just stepped in there and made some plays. And speaking of people who stepped in, made plays, the wide receiving core. It's not flashy, it's not sexy, but it's reliable, and it's sure-handed, and it's beautiful to watch, right? Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Jarvis Landry, all continue to be reliable, all continue to be in the right spots, all continue to be able to enable Baker Mayfield to be able to dominate these zone coverages that he gets. And again, zone was something that Baker struggled with early in this season, especially in his second year. It's nice to see him now just being able to dominate a zone. We already know what Baker can do against man, and now this Browns team is just becoming really hard to cover because you stop the run, now you got to stop Baker Mayfield. And there's not a lot of teams that can do both. And that is a very good thing for the Cleveland Browns. But that's for the offense. Now I'm going to wrap up all my thoughts and give you my final take. So this season, right, before we got into this season, I think everybody had a general checklist of what they wanted the Browns to achieve. It included double-digit wins. It included figuring out if Baker Mayfield would be your franchise quarterback. It included figuring out what Andrew Berry can do with these rookies. It included figuring out what Kevin Stefanski was all about. Those are the most important things you want to find out about this team. Of course, you had the extra stuff, the playoff game stuff, the milestone stuff. But the most important things you need to learn from this season is who do you have at quarterback, who do you have at head coach, who's picking the players, and can you, with this roster, get double-digit wins? Well, you got double-digit wins. You're on your way to a playoff berth. You still got to win, some games to do it, but you're on your way. Kevin Stefanski has looked excellent. Andrew Berry looks like he's made some excellent picks. All these guys that he drafted, Harrison Bryant, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Nick Harris, they're stepping in. They're playing well. This is Andrew Berry, keeping Wyatt Teller. That was an Andrew Berry thing. Now, John Dorsey traded for him. John Dorsey does deserve a lot of credit for the talent that he brought in, but Andrew Berry deserves some credit for the rookies that he brought in as well because they're all contributing. And then when it comes to Baker Mayfield, 3 weeks in a row, we're feeling pretty good about him to the point to, I don't think there's a reason to question if Baker Mayfield is good enough to do X, Y, or Z. Is Baker Mayfield holding back the offense? No, that's all silly now. That sounds so goofy now. Is Baker Mayfield holding back the offense? Obviously not. So with that in mind, the Browns have checked off everything that you wanted from just a basic training camp checklist that you wanted to find out in this season. Now it's time to get some of those superlatives. Get to a playoff game, win a playoff game, win 2 playoff games, win the conference, win a Super Bowl. These are the checklists that this franchise is moving on to. No more are we trying to get monkeys off our back of mediocrity. And I felt like that's what this game was, right? All these former Browns, Freddie Kitchens on the other, it felt like we had to exercise the old Browns from what this new organization is. And I'm not saying like it's literally a new organization, but I am saying that, Kevin Stefanski, Baker Mayfield, this is a new era. And I think they had to exercise all of the dysfunctional demons of the past versus the Giants, who had all of those guys, Colt McCoy, Freddie Kitchens, Jabril Peppers, Jabal Sheard, all the eras of Browns dysfunction and mediocrity and 4-12 and 6-10 seasons were right in front of you and in your way of being able to further secure your playoff fate. And the Browns did it. They exercised their demons. It seems they're on and away from a place where they're looking for a guy like Colt McCoy in the 3rd round to be the franchise savior because they don't need to. They got their guy. They're on from a point to where they're taking risk on guys like Freddie Kitchens to be the head coach for this team because they already got their guy. We're exercising the demons of our past. We're moving on from all those dysfunctional checklists, all those Browns haven't done this since 19 whatever. We're done with that. We're done celebrating these things. We're done with those checklists, and now we're trying to move on to the checklist that everybody else uses. Win a playoff game, win 2 playoff games, win the conference, win a Super Bowl. That's the checklist. That's what they have to do. That's what they have to focus on. But that's my thoughts on this game. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.